The second aspect we need to talk about with regards to digital memory culture or digital history is the question of accessibility. And I think there we saw, of course, the kind of most intriguing developments, especially on the level of the development of new technologies. I'm primarily speaking about projects that are creating virtual environments, virtual surroundings, and thereby try to make accessible in an engaging way history, and also combine the idea of preserving with the idea of adding additional information and creating new forms of interaction. What do I mean with this? So, for example, we are talking about the attempt to digitize real historical spaces, either contemporary sites like they are looking today, for example, the sites of former concentration camps or other atrocity sites, and then transform them to a virtually accessible space online, or by the help of specific technologies like three-dimensional spaces through 3D photography and filming, or kind of virtually constructed computer-generated spaces. And this offers new forms of perception of historical spaces in a multimodal way, because we can combine the kind of immediate virtual encounter with additional sounds, with body movements. We can kind of watch around. We have 360-degree photography and filming, which offers us the possibility to kind of simulate that we are actively present at a site which is actually distant, either distant in a sense of, in a physical sense, so because it's far away from us, or distant in the sense of time, because it just belongs to a past period. So there's a variety of attempts to use these technologies, which we can all kind of frame as virtual commemoration or virtual commemoration sites. We have those projects that use 360-degree filming and photography in order to create the possibility to move in these virtual places. We have a 360-degree online application, for example, provided by the Auschwitz Memorial or by the Neuengamme Memorial, and this offers the user the possibility, either on the desktop by clicking with the mouse, or with a mobile device, to kind of orient themselves on the site, look around, walk around, and access specific points, and then even kind of be able to get additional information by opening text layers or other things. We also see this technology in projects like Inside Auschwitz, a project by the WDR, the German public television broadcasting channel, that created a 360-degree virtual documentation of the Auschwitz Memorial site, and also in interviews with survivors, female survivors, who are explaining or talking about their experiences and memories. And this can be used either on YouTube with a mobile device or on the computer, and then we can navigate within this 360-degree environment, or it can also be used with VR goggles like the Oculus glasses, which offers us also the possibility of experiencing, of course always in a nevertheless limited participatory and interactive way, because it's mainly our moving around with our heads and eyes that offers us the possibility to change perspective and to refocus and relocate, but nevertheless there are certain limitations which result from the 360-degree photography. It's getting different when we get into kind of computer simulated virtual environments. Of course, we have on the one hand this used for example, completely or nearly completely fictional environments, like in computer games, historical computer games, or computer games dealing with related topics like war in Call of Duty or Wolfenstein, where we see where we have see kind of computer generated worlds that nevertheless kind of have a lot of connections, references to, for example, atrocity sites, camps, other iconic sites of history, but we also have attempts of the recreation of kind of virtual environments that offer us the possibility to experience these sites in a state which is not there anymore. So because the memorials at former concentration camp sites of today are usually not looking the same like the concentration camps, and of course the experience there is also different, because we are going to a memorial, we are going to a graveyard, we are going to an educational site, but we are not at a concentration camp memorial. And we see that some projects try in different ways to reconstruct what is not there anymore. Yeah, we have some attempts in Bergen-Belsen, for example, to create a virtual reconstruction of the topography of the camp, while not reconstructing it as it looked. We also have we also saw this, for example, in context of criminology or forensics. In a trial against a former Auschwitz guard, the Bavarian police created a complete computer model, virtual 3D computer model of Auschwitz, in order to identify what could somebody see when he or she was at a specific place in the camp. So this is also shows that we have very different use cases for these virtual models, ranging from criminology and trials to commemoration, education, entertainment. Another example is a project by the USC Shaw Foundation, which traveled with a Holocaust survivor to Majdanek, where he was imprisoned, and the result was a virtual documentary where you could kind of walk through this site together with the survivor, and both the site and the survivor were transformed to kind of virtual avatars and a virtual environment that in a certain kind interacts with you, or better, you interact with it while kind of walking through it, through this kind of virtual memorial site. And this, of course, also is strongly connected to the dimensions in testimony project by the USC Shaw Foundation, which is also based on a variety of computer technologies, which had the the aim to create virtual testimonies by recording survivors in a way that that they could be projected, so to say, as 3D models, as avatars in space, in order to interact with an audience even though they are not present anymore. And by the help of speech recognition technology and the possibility of text recognition and keyword identification, a conversation is simulated between this virtual survivor and the audience, which asks questions, and then the algorithm connects these questions based on text speech recognition and text search operations to the testimonies fragments, aspects of the testimonies by the survivor. So that, of course, are all projects that attempt to, on the one hand, preserve memory for the future, but also make it accessible for different audiences, and also in different spaces, and not only recreate, but also kind of evoke virtual spaces of memory. Connected but different, and maybe also closer to the idea of multi-layered history, is what we call augmented reality technology. So there we are usually kind of moving or are present at in a real location, and we are using digital devices or supportive technologies in order to access additional layers of information, or to add additional layers of experience by the help of these devices. So for example, the Bergen-Belsen Memorial created an app where users are present on the site, and they see the site as it looks today, as a memorial, as a place where these cruel conditions were at the end of the war, in the period of liberation, but where nothing was left, or nearly nothing was left. We see the traces of the mass graves, but we don't have barracks, we don't have the classical topography of the camp, because everything had to be burned down by the British after the liberation, due to the fear of spreading typhus. And so they use this technology of virtual reconstruction in order to create an impression how the camp was looking back then, but really in a very abstract way, just showing where the barracks were standing. And if you then are holding the device, you see both layers. You see how it looks today, and in your device, projected as a second layer, you also see the silhouettes of the camp topography, and you can add additional sources and additional voices to it. Or another interesting attempt are the AR applications created in the Dachau Memorial, where you have, for example, an AR application where you walk through the memorial, and then you can use this device in order to project photographies or parts of the photographies which were made in the period of the state of the liberation of the camp by Allied photographers into the space as it looks today. So you have two temporal layers, and you have also kind of two different media, so to say. So you have the memorial side, and you have, as a second layer, the historical photograph. And added to that is also then a voiceover explanation, which also partly contains the memories of survivors and liberators. And the second app, the ART application, offers the possibility to project paintings and of former prisoners into the real space of the memorial, and connect these scenes to the memorial site, including also a graphic novel which was created, of course, after liberation. So all these attempts are used in order to create additional layers. So we have the kind of virtual simulation of history, a quite controversial element in a controversial project in this regard was at the Hohenschönhausen former Stasi prison memorial, where visitors could kind of impersonate a prisoner during an interrogation, and with the VR goggles kind of simulate the scene being kind of face to face with the Stasi interrogator. And on the other hand, we also have a lot of applications that use the technology of augmented reality in order to add additional layers of information at the actual sites. For example, also the Berlin History app or the Cold War app make it possible to, so to say, add an additional layer that connects to the history of the Cold War, or the history of German division, or the history of the wall, while walking through the urban spaces of Berlin. And we see also that there is a variety of of possibilities to use this technology, for example, also as forms of kind of maps that can be accessed online, remotely, as a possibility to add specific historical sites, but also as a kind of walking tour that you can access from your phone. All of this augments or expands our real life spaces, so to say, and adds an additional historical layer or makes accessible another historical layer, either kind of remotely by creating a virtual environment or by adding additional layers of information by the help of digital technology to the real historical sites or places. I would say that this is a form of kind of expanded space, which gets very close to the idea of multi-layered history, and which also offers a lot of possibilities to kind of make visible the visible and invisible traces of the past in our present, and make it also possible for us to connect past and present, to compare it, to see changes, but also kind of to superimpose sources from the past and from the present. And we should even think about podcasts or about audio guides where we have the possibility of this kind of expanded space through the help of media that offer us additional layers of experience and of